Today I have a story for you guys about this kid who claims that he has MrBeast's phone number. This kid just does nothing but lie, and it's a pretty funny story. I know you guys are gonna enjoy it. Like the video for a helicopter. Yeah, seriously, a free helicopter. And while you're down there liking the video, also subscribe. We're trying to hit 69 trillion subscribers, and we're getting super close, so just get us there. And yeah, without any further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So for this story, we're gonna call our subscriber Jamie. So Jamie went to a smaller school in a little town. You know, there was nothing too special about their school or anything like that. And everybody who went to that school all knew each other. Like, it wasn't like some of those schools where there's so many people you don't even know half of your classmates' names. Anyways, there's this kid who went to school with Jamie, and this kid was in most of Jamie's classes. For the sake of the story, we're gonna call him Kevin. Now, Kevin was one of those kids who would just lie for no reason. And like pretty much everything that he said would just be a lie. Like, for example, whenever a new movie came out and people were talking about the new movie and how much they liked it, Kevin would join in and be like, oh yeah, I saw the movie too, I loved it so much. And then the people who were talking about said movie would be like, oh yeah, no, it was a great movie, what was your favorite part? And then Kevin would be taken aback a bit and he'd just be like, oh, I liked the part when the guy does the thing. Yeah, that was a good part. And you know, it would just always be obvious that he was lying, but he would never admit it. Even if he was just straight up caught in a lie like that right there, he wouldn't admit it. Not only would he lie about things that people were talking about, he would also just randomly bring up random topics or random things to try and like flex on the students or, I don't know, like show off or something like that. Like this one day, just sitting around and he was like, yeah, you know, sometimes I ride my electric scooter around outside. It's pretty fun. And it's not like anybody was talking about like riding bikes outside or anything like that. Like, there was literally no conversation going on whatsoever. It was just like students who were bored, like scrolling through their phone. And then he just says that. Then one of the kids, who of course knew that everything Kevin said was a lie, would try to catch him in the lie and be like, oh, what brand of scooter is it? And then the kid would be like, I forget. I think it's like the Tony Hawk brand or something. Oh, really? You have a Tony Hawk electric scooter. Very interesting. And of course, he would never have pictures or anything to back up his lies. It was always an excuse, or he would just change the topic, or he would just pretend like he didn't hear the question or something like that. Even whenever it didn't make sense for him to lie, he would lie. Point is, Kevin is a liar, pants on fire. Anyways, most of the lies that Kevin gave were nothing too crazy. You know, nothing really ever came out of any of them, nothing bad, other than people just thinking that he's a liar. But there was one lie that kind of led to sort of a big deal for Kevin. One day, a few students were talking about the new MrBeast video that came out, and they were talking about how cool it would be to be on the MrBeast crew and be one of MrBeast's friends. And the students were agreeing. They were like, yeah, you know, that's like my dream job. I hope one day, whenever I grow up, I could be like on a YouTube channel like MrBeast, or even be friends with MrBeast one day. And you know, it's just the thought. But then, of course, Kevin overhears this conversation and he butts in. He's like, yeah, that would be really cool. You know what else is cool? And then the students were like, oh, tell us, Kevin, what else is cool? That's whenever Kevin was like, me, I'm cool. Want to know why I'm cool? Students were kind of puzzled, but they're like, okay, tell us why you're so cool, Kevin. That's whenever Kevin said, I'm friends with MrBeast and I actually have his phone number. At that point, the students just laughed and they're like, oh yeah, sure you do. And that's whenever Kevin pulled out his phone and went to his contacts and showed the group of students a contact that said MrBeast with a picture of MrBeast on it. And the picture of MrBeast, Jamie says, was just a picture that looked like it was taken straight out of Google Images. Like, it wasn't too convincing, but you know, he did have the contact made up, which is just weird. Like, he had been waiting for somebody to bring up MrBeast just so he can say this lie. Like, he made a fake MrBeast contact waiting for somebody to be talking about MrBeast so then he could lie about it. Either that or he's not that crazy and he actually had MrBeast's phone number. OMG, did he have the phone number? Was it real all along? Well, Kevin went on to explain how and why he has MrBeast's number. He said that one day his family had him volunteer with them, and they went to this food bank, and Kevin claims that it ended up being MrBeast's food bank. And then it also just so happened that they were filming a MrBeast video that day at the MrBeast food bank. And MrBeast himself was there at the MrBeast video at the MrBeast food bank. MrBeast. Sorry, I was just, that was a bit too much, guys, but just let me have my fun, all right? But yeah, so he's claiming that MrBeast was at his food bank filming a video, and then he said that after they were done recording, MrBeast came over and thanked all the volunteers, and then Kevin said that he asked MrBeast for a picture. MrBeast, of course, said, yeah, you know, get over here, you're volunteering for my charity, for my food bank, get over here and take a picture. And then Kevin claims that MrBeast was all like, dude, it's really cool that you're volunteering at such a young age, you know, I really appreciate all the help. If there's anything you ever need, just let me know. And then that's when supposedly he got MrBeast's phone number. Now, I must say, if this is a lie, this is a pretty well orchestrated lie. But also, with a compulsive liar like Kevin, it's very hard to believe anything that he's saying, and also it's pretty easy to believe that he can come up with such a well orchestrated lie. You know, it wouldn't be that surprising if it came out that this was a lie. So he's telling this story to Jamie and the few classmates standing in the hallway, and that's whenever one of the classmates says, you know, if that's really MrBeast, then you can call him for anything you want. Can you maybe like prove it to us that it's actually him? And Kevin was like, yeah, look, it's his contact right here. And the classmate was like, no, I mean, like, can't you like call him or text him even, ask for a selfie, or, you know, show the picture that you said you took with him? That's whenever Kevin was like, oh, well, no, MrBeast is busy right now. He's in a very important meeting, and the picture was taken on MrBeast's phone, and he still has to send it to me. So yeah, I don't have it. It was pretty obvious at this point that he was lying. I mean, just making up excuses. But at the end of the day, the classmates weren't really that fazed. You know, Kevin lies all the time. But it seems like Kevin thinks that he got away with it and he isn't caught, which happens a lot. Jamie says that he believes that Kevin probably believes like 90% of the things that he told people were believed by them. But in reality, it's probably like the other way, and 90% of the things that he says, people know that it's a lie. So Kevin just kept going up to more and more people and telling the story just straight up. This time he wasn't listening for people to be talking about MrBeast, rather he was just going up to people and being like, guess who I have in my phone, ha 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 ha. And then he'd show them the MrBeast contact. And then, you know, a similar situation would play out. The student would want him to prove it. Either that or they just pretend like they believed it because they didn't want to have to deal with Kevin's antics right now. But of course, whenever he was asked to prove it, he would just brush it off and make up some lie or come up with an excuse about why he can't show them that it's real. Unlike the first group of classmates though, a lot of the people who he told the whole story to were actually believing it. Jamie said that he was walking down the hallway whenever one of his friends came up to him and he said, dude, did you hear that Kevin actually met MrBeast? And he has his phone number? Like, maybe he can get us on the show if we ask. And that's whenever Jamie was like, do you really believe Kevin? You know he lies all the time, right? And the friend was like, yeah, well, you know, he lies about other stupid stuff, but I mean, his story seems legit and he has his contact in his phone. He even showed me some of the messages. You know, I don't think he faked messages and made a fake contact just to show me. Jamie just nodded his head and he was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Then he said he had to get to class and kept on walking forward. Jamie was just thinking to himself, and he was honestly just baffled that people actually were believing Kevin after they know that Kevin lies so much. Like, that's just a well-known thing in this school, is that Kevin is a goddamn liar. But it seems like this time his lie is so believable that everyone is believing it. Or maybe the lie isn't a lie and Jamie's the one who's in the wrong for not believing. But hey, at least Jamie's doubting the liar, which I mean is a good thing. You should always doubt the kid who lies all the time. Until, you know, of course he gains your trust back or something. But you know, if somebody just lies and lies and lies and lies and never tries to gain your trust back, can't really trust them, can ya? A lot of people, however, would soon be trusting Kevin more soon and believing his lie, because one one day, there was an announcement over the loudspeaker that there was going to be an assembly next week, and they were going to have a guest speaker at the assembly, and it was revealed that that guest speaker is going to be MrBeast. So instantly, whenever they made this announcement, everybody cracked their heads and turned over and looked at Kevin, and that's whenever even the people who didn't believe him at first started to believe him. They're like, oh my gosh, he actually was here, Kevin. You actually met him. At that point, everyone was believing Kevin. Even Jamie was starting to kind of believe Kevin, because Kevin was saying this long before the assembly was announced. So that must have meant that MrBeast was actually in town, because, I mean, he's going to be in an assembly with the school. So, it was adding up all in Kevin's favor. And Kevin at first was eating it all up. He was like, yeah, if anybody wants money from MrBeast, just let me know. I'll ask him for you. If you want a free gaming computer, just I'll ask MrBeast. You guys want a shout out from MrBeast? I got you. He was just telling everybody that he was going to hook him up with the MrBeast juice. But these were all promises that he probably wasn't going to be able to keep, even if he actually had MrBeast's phone number. But he was loving the attention, man. All eyes were on him. All the focus was on him. Everybody wanted to talk to Kevin because he actually had MrBeast's phone number, or at least that's what everybody truly thought. So the day of the assembly finally comes around, and over those past few days, like I said, Kevin is just eating up all the attention. He's saying all this crazy stuff about MrBeast and how he talked to him the day before and had a conversation, all of this stupid stuff. But yeah, the day of the assembly finally arrives, and everybody goes to the gymnasium, and after everyone gets settled down, the principal talked for a few minutes about building businesses and philanthropy and all of that, and then the principal announced that they had the perfect person to talk about all of this, and that's whenever they introduced MrBeast. Everyone was freaking out. Jamie says that had to have been the loudest that gymnasium has ever been. Like, kids were screaming and squealing. There was 2 or 3 kids who even tried to hop over onto the gymnasium and run at MrBeast, but one of the teachers put a stop to that and they got sent to detention. Yeah, he was there, and eventually he was like, all right, everybody, quiet down. I'm so glad to be here today. And then he started talking about all the stuff he wanted to say for the assembly, and the whole reason he was there, to talk about how anybody can follow their dreams and to never give up. And of course, he was talking about his philanthropy and how charity is important and all of that. And it was a pretty long speech. Everybody was listening very close because, well, this is like pretty much everyone in the school's favorite YouTuber, or at least everyone in the school knows him from YouTube. Like, every kid out there at this point knows MrBeast, right? So that's a big deal for him to be at an assembly at your school. That's like probably the coolest thing ever. And then after he wraps it up, he asks if anybody has any questions, which of course, like, the whole entire gymnasium had questions. Everyone was raising their hand. People were jumping, shaking their hand, trying to get their attention, yelling. And Jamie just sat there with their hand raised high, not moving it back and forth, not screaming or jumping or anything like that, which honestly, that was a strat I used to do, thinking that I was going to get picked for not being the rowdy one. But then they'd always pick the rowdy ones anyways. And I was like, are you serious, man? I'm trying to be composed and nice. But instead you pick the kid who's like screaming in your face to pick you or else. Anyways, that didn't happen here. MrBeast pointed right at Jamie and was like, you there in the blue shirt, which Jamie was wearing a blue shirt, if you couldn't guess. He was like, you there in the blue shirt, what's your question? Ask away. And that's whenever Jamie was like, hi, MrBeast, huge fan, by the way, but I have a question about one of your friends. You see, there's a kid in our school who claims to know you personally and says that he has your phone number. His name is Kevin, and he says he met you at a food bank in our town. Is this true? I was just wondering, because he always talks about it, but I just don't believe it. A whole gymnasium did a 180. It turned from being all rowdy of people trying to get MrBeast to pick them for a question to absolute dead silence. You could hear a pin drop in that room. Everyone had their heads turned, looking at the same thing. They were all looking directly at Kevin, and Kevin was extremely nervous at this point. He shrunk down in his chair, and his face was getting beet red, and you could tell he was extremely nervous. Which, I mean, how couldn't you be with everybody staring at you like that? And MrBeast himself, Jamie says, looked pretty confused, saying that he looked puzzled for a minute before responding. And then finally, Jimmy says, Kevin, huh? I can't say I know a Kevin personally, and I definitely don't give out my phone number to people I don't know. I'm sorry, but it seems like he has been telling stories, but it doesn't mean we should make fun of him or anything. It just means he's a fan, and I appreciate that. The silence in the room at that point was absolutely deafening, Jamie said. Kevin was extremely embarrassed, avoiding eye contact with anyone. I mean, MrBeast just exposed him big time, even though he probably didn't mean to expose him that bad. But I mean, you know, it was a question he had to answer. I guess he could have played into it and been like, oh yeah, Kevin's my best friend. But no, MrBeast doesn't like liars. And Kevin just had to sit there with the truth being out and nowhere for him to hide. After that, you know, people went up to Kevin and were picking on him for lying. And Kevin would just walk with his eyes straight forward, ignoring absolutely everyone and everything. He was just going through his days at school, not talking to anybody. He was so embarrassed every single day, you could tell. And Jamie, seeing this, didn't really pick on him or anything like that. But they sat there and thought to themselves, like, you know, I was right this whole time. Like, I don't know why people believed this. But then, you know, it added up with him coming to the assembly. It just so happens that he lied at the perfect time, I guess. And of course, eventually, all the negative attention on Kevin kind of faded away. And honestly, this ended up being a good thing for Kevin because he wasn't going around and making up random lies or butting into people's conversations and making random crap up anymore. And as all the negative attention on him faded, he kind of got more comfortable and, you know, started talking to his friends again. And yeah, it's safe to say that Kevin learned the very important life lesson that honesty is always the best policy.